Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Sheridan, and we're episode 4 tonight with our councillor Neil Stevens and his brother Tony, a fellow councillor, Tony Stevens. And we have an interesting young guest, Dexter, tonight. And we're going to have a conversation tonight with our panel about an important topic, at least to me, I think to many, which is the graffiti that we all experience and antisocial behavior. And this is an important issue in Exeter. It's everywhere around us. In fact, just before we came on tonight, a friend of mine said that in Exeter, even attending a show, there was some troubling antisocial behavior. So have you guys heard any complaints, Tony, from any residents?
No, not at the moment, but I mean, summer's only really just started, so I'm sure the kids will be out to play.
Okay, but this isn't all about antisocial behavior. We're talking about graffiti. I mean, this show is about graffiti, antisocial behavior. It's kind of mixed into a lot of different issues, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah. I mean, antisocial behaviour. I mean, today I was talking to a gentleman who empties all the bins in the local parks, and he gave me recent antisocial behaviour, which was quite concerning.
Yeah. Dexter, have you seen, what have you seen? You're local, I think, aren't you?
I am now. I'm originally from London, and yeah, there compared to here, it's a big difference. But I can see a massive amount of change happening here as well. As you said, the graffiti in literally everywhere at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them on phone boxes, and I don't really understand what the difference is between all this stuff. There's graffiti, there's art graffiti, and there's tagging. Dexter, what's the difference there?
I was a little bit of a ragtag when I was younger.
That's not why your mother told me.
Sorry, Mum, if you're watching. And I did used to graffiti. I just got into it by older lads, wrong sort of crowd.
So you had your own tag then?
I did have my own tag, yeah, which is stupid. I don't even want to say what it was.
It called?
No,
Go on, you have to tell.
You might as well say that.
That's why we've invited you on the show.
Yeah.
It was
Slick,
Doom.
right?
It was Doom, right? Don't know where I got it from. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't even draw it properly. It wasn't even graffiti.
Hey, careful, your mother's watching.
I just put it on things like buses and stuff. And I was with a gang of people who did the same thing, and I thought it was really, really cool to be antisocial and put it as many places I could so everyone see that name. And obviously, I'm not going to write Dexter because everyone know it was me straight away.
Yeah.
There wasn't many Dexters when I was younger.
So
you have a sort of alias, if you like, and that's what you see around Exeter.
So what about deterrent? I mean, didn't you? If I went into that, I'd be scared to get caught.
When you're younger, that's the buzz you want. You know, you want to get caught.
Like
with
adrenaline
chase and
rush.
stuff.
So where you?
Yeah, of course it is. You want to push the limits.
Excuse me, Mr. Producer, could you flash up some pictures that we've got of local area just so everybody can see what we're talking about? And by the way, Mr. Producer, could you get rid of that reform thing, because doesn't matter what party it is, we all are unified. We got to get rid of this problem, right? Right, Neil?
Well, we have to be careful what we do here, because some of these are designated areas. So these subways, the local authority have given permission, all right? But you mentioned tagging.
Yeah.
If you just explain, some of that is art.
I mean, some of it is definitely art
art
underneath.
Yeah. Some people put a lot of time and effort into this, and they've learnt skills through the years. It isn't just putting paint on a wall. There's artful of the way they shade it in and stuff. But this just scribbling like a weird name or an alias or whatever it is isn't the art. As you can see there, something's brilliant.
Graffiti, if you could, in the area here. We have some interesting photos, I think, right?
Okay, I think I was told also this is a designated area, but if you look at some of the pictures or the artists have done it, you can see where people have sprayed their tagging names and they've ruined it. So to me, people call that an art. I call it an eyesore now. It was started off as an art, but an eyesore. And if you look at the sign as well, that's been tagged as well.
Yeah. And Neil, could I just pause for a second and make sure that our audience knows if you're on Facebook or YouTube, put a comment in. We'd love to hear what your comments are, please. Go ahead, Neil.
So I'm going to bring Dexter back into the conversation. So, we'll start off, we're looking at the youth. All right, so you, when did you start doing these I call it antisocial behaviour?
Yeah, mine was sort of early teens, I would say.
12?
hard to think, but it's about 17 years ago. But yeah, around about 12, while still at school, after school and stuff.
Yeah, see, I need to understand this, Rob, because at the end of the day, a 12-year-old, I was doing like playing table tennis, for example, or football,
But
or rugby.
I think the way I see it is you're subject to your environment. In fact, if it's happening around you, then you're sort of going to fall into that trap. Whereas your environment might have been sports and stuff like that. There wasn't much going on when I was younger to do.
Were you influenced?
Oh, definitely, yeah, massively.
By who?
older children, cooler children, if you like, and stuff like that. Look, you know, the sort of, you know, there's a hierarchy in school, and you know, kids look at the popular, if you like, children. They say, to, you know, I want to be like that. What do? They follow suit.
I got to admit, I keep thinking of Doom, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's
So do you
works.
think
works
these
you can
are,
have it. You can have it.
So it's not limited to gangs. It's
I mean,
more,
there is some essence of gangs. You know, you'll see around Exeter, especially. I mean, one of the signs got it on. There's like numbers. That could be reference to a sort of gang that they've made up, not a criminal gang, but just antisocial sort of gang that stick together. I mean, it's been a long time since I was there, but I remember back in London there were gangs called different names, and you did see the gang names, but it wasn't
I
organised
take it
crime.
it's marking in their territory.
Just marking the territory, yeah. So if you get another gang from another, you know, we're all talking young teens here. We're not talking gangsters or anything like that. We're talking young teens that just have that sort of antisocial behaviour, and they're part of a group.
Yeah.
So if you was to attack one of them,
Yeah.
you know, physically,
Is there a
the rest
code
of
between the gangs?
to be honest with you, I don't know. It wasn't.
Why are you smiling?
I was
You
never
must
in a
know
gang.
there must be a code.
No, there's
do
no.
you have
code.
certain areas where you can work and you
Well,
don't cross the line?
There is sort of areas that you don't cross, and if another gang come in, you know, there would be sort of childish fighting and stuff like that. But you know, that's just like anything like football hooliganism sort of
What
thing.
he's getting at.
When with different teams, it was the same sort of thing.
So
with
what you're
areas.
saying, you was also a tagger and a football hooligan?
No, I was never a football hooligan.
Well, I thought you just said you did Millwall.
I am a Millwall supporter. I'm not a
And
football
Millwall
hooligan.
used to have a track record, didn't it?
Yeah, but
Just
I mean,
the
no
football
offense,
sport.
Dexter, but against Tony, but I don't think you're the same generation as Dexter.
No,
right?
generations
Yeah.
are different now.
So what's? I mean, what did you have when you were growing up to keep you occupied?
Well, it's the old phrase, isn't it? Jumpers for goalposts. I think you might understand that. We made our own entertainment up, but it didn't involve tagging or anything like that, really, because if we did, there was a good chance we'd be picked up for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got to admit, let's look around the streets, and primate, thank you, producer. Up here, if we don't recognise that, that is the St Thomas back of the railway there, where you go.
Is everybody
in
seeing
Carrot
that,
Street.
Mr.
Well, I
Producer,
agree.
out
That's
in the
not art,
audience?
is it?
Is our
Even-
audience seeing that?
It
those
just
pictures?
looks really, really horrible, and it brings the area down. And I can't call that a work of art, can you?
No, there's no essence of art there.
So,
at
but
all.
you were one of the guys who used to do that, and I'm still
Yeah.
trying to understand what makes you think
influence.
that looks art.
Yeah, but it's not. It's more influence in it. It's with anything. It's usually an influence of an older
I'm not
age.
picking on you, by the way.
No. I totally get
I'm
it.
just
'Cause
trying
I
to
asked-
understand your
The thing is, I ask
mentality.
myself this question now: why did I do that? And as an adult now,
Well, that's a
and a
good
father
question.
myself,
That's a good question because Mike from the audience has just asked us, why are there no consequences for antisocial behavior, which is kind of mixed in with graffiti and everything else.
That's a good question, which we're going to cover later on. But for a minute, they go around, they're tagging. I know there's quite a lot of groups now, small gangs. I don't like using the word gangs. A lot of young'uns getting together. And I did say about the example in the park, and this is somebody, a lady was playing croquet down in Princess Gardens. You know Princess Gardens, Rob?
Yeah, that's down the end of the street, isn't it?
Yeah, and the gentleman today who worked for the council said a group of people, or a group of young people, sat on the bench, kicked the ball over 5 times. Lady returned it, ex-retired teacher, playing croquet. The 6th time she said, look, I can't keep doing this. They jumped over the fence, surrounded her and intimidated her. Okay, there was another incident, without going on, where a lady was going to report, and this goes to your question, an incident. She was held 45 minutes on 101. All right, she didn't want to ring 999, but 101. And I expect everybody's had experience with 101.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to have some dialogue with a whole bunch of different people.
Well, the law's wrong, because if you were to actually retaliate against these people, you would be the one who would be prosecuted.
You say retaliate. What I mean, what can
Well,
you can't do nothing because everybody has civil rights. And
They've all got civil rights, but
you can't
you
touch
cannot. Even if you have a word with them, they'll just mobile everything. So you have to
What do you
even
mean
be.
by that?
They'll hold their mobile set. They'll film it, and they'll film it. So you have to keep your distance. Watch what you actually say, and then they'll say, "Oh,
they'll use that against
And that's
you.
what they
Okay.
do. They'll use
Yeah.
it against you, and because
them.
of their
Intimidate
age.
you, Dex. You ever intimidate anybody?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
back to
but-
you
back
again,
when
Dex.
back when I was young, the most you could do on a phone was Snake. So I weren't videoing anything, to be honest. Cameras had just come out, but no, I'm proud to say that I haven't really intimidated people. I mean, I think the furthest I'll go is knock down Ginger, knocking on the door and running away.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to
you know.
admit, I've done knockout
Yeah.
Ginger. That
So,
was years
but,
ago.
But apart from that, no, I've
Troublemaker
always
as
had.
well.
But I could say proudly that I haven't interfered with someone in that way and intimidated people
Yeah.
because I think that's disgusting.
Can I just go back a little bit, Dexter? So why didn't you have anything to do, like after school activities? Like when I was young, I had Boy Scouts, I had jazz band, I had newspaper. Aren't there any after school activities or
I mean, where I'm originally from, there was a youth club I went to. I used to go every Friday, sports, tuck shop, films, usual stuff. But then that sort of closed down, and then after that, I sort of just went onto the sort of streets at night, out and about, which most young kids are doing now.
Yeah, but
if they're
then
not
I
home
question, and this is a question I'm going to say. Why are parents letting kids roam around at 10, 11 o'clock at night when they've got to go school?
Well, that's the question, but I think it's a hard life now. It's rather they sit in and glued to TV screens or glued to PlayStation, or they let them out and they try and let them be kids because once upon a time we were kids that went and played football in the park and stuff like that.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's for any young person, any person of any age, really. We need, we like to have friends. We hang out with people. So, if you get a call from Johnny or something like that, and he says, "Hey, can you come out and meet me in front of the pizza place at 7 o'clock?" Then you'll go because you're your friend. It's something fun to do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Something like that.
Yeah, but go on.
Oh, I was just going to say. I mean, yeah, it was. Well, I'm going back now. It's a changed world. It's a digital world now. I was out all the time. I was out constantly. I'd go home from school, out straight out my school uniform. I was out the door, and I was back. What it was meant to be when the sun went down, when it was dark. But you always push it another hour, or I'm stuck somewhere. I'm waiting for a bus, or whatever it is. I'm at my friend's house. And a lot of these kids these days probably do the same thing. I'm at my friend's house, and they're not. They're on the streets. I used to tell my mum that I was
Careful.
staying around a
Intimidate
bit.
yourself.
Back to that one again.
And your sisters. watching.
I used to tell my mum that I was staying at a friend's house. My friend would tell them that they're staying at my house, and we'd run the streets all night, all night long until the sun come up, and then we'd get up to all sorts of mischief. I don't know why we did it and what we were doing. We weren't doing anything really bad, but it was just fun to be rebellious, if you like.
Yeah, I've noticed now when I've been driving around, you see, and maybe you could blame COVID, but a lot of the young'uns are now wearing full masks and hoodies.
I think that's more to do with
A trend?
If you look at like the rappers and stuff these days, they're all wearing them ski
I
masks.
mean,
and
you
stuff.
think when we were
Yeah.
younger, it was DMs and
Yeah, but you can't ID anybody, so they literally riding along on their bikes, and two shot in front of me yesterday, and they looked like they was doing a bank job. Yeah, in
Well, I
my
was
days, you never had that. You could see the face. You didn't have the hoodies.
I was
It's quite daunting.
I was more surprised yesterday. I see some kid down Carrick Street in full tracksuit and a jacket on in this heat, and I thought, I mean, he's sticking to the calls. He's sticking to the whatever's cool these days. He definitely stuck it because I was
that's
sweating
his
in a t-shirt.
uniforms. Everybody's got a uniform to
Well,
wear.
that's
right?
it.
So, but I mean, just before we went on here, you were mentioning something about these kids on bikes videoing, or tell us.
Oh
about that.
yeah, well this is fairly new to me, and it's only what I've seen on Facebook.
Part of
and
another
stuff.
generation.
Yeah,
right?
well,
But
this is
But
well
it's
far
happening
off
in
me
London quite a lot, and it's
exactly-
coming
I've-
down here.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos. Basically, kids getting on in groups on their bikes. They're doing wheelies through traffic, oncoming traffic, and weaving in and out of buses and down cycle paths. And I've seen it. It's happening like centre of London. But the other day, me and my partner were out, and we were driving down where the McDonald's is in Alphington, in the car park, and there was a group of kids in there, and they were trying. I think they were not as well as the ones online, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but they were trying to cause havoc, and you could see they were trying to cause havoc because cars were bibbing, they're in the way. My partner was like, "Are they stupid? What are they doing?" And then I told her that I've seen this video, and obviously they're copying. It's really dangerous.
Yeah, but the problem is if a driver hits them, it's always the driver's fault.
And also, if a driver hits them and kills them, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, totally.
Well, do you think it's also has something to do with there's no fear of consequences? You know,
Massively,
Well, that's it.
massively. I mean, that was I can relate back to that when I was younger. I didn't think I had consequences. I thought the worst that was going to happen is the policeman's going to take me to my front door.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to prison. I'm not going to do this. There's no consequences. My mum's going to tell me off. She'll forget about it in a week, and then I'm back to it. So there was nothing to stop it.
Yeah, right. So going back to deterrent. Right, so I know Alphington, speaking to a local yesterday. Thank you, Norman, for giving me that. It was a pleasure to meet you. The local police sergeant, no disrespect for the person, is long-term sick, which I hope they get better. The PCSO is don't
Missing
take this.
in action.
Yeah, missing in action. Nobody sees. I haven't touched with any other ones yet, but I think we're going to look at solutions. First of all, we need to deter or deterrent. That I know that they can do fines. They can't arrest, but they can detain. They can search. Okay, and they can fine. Now I don't know whether they can fine a person under 18. But maybe they should change the law and fine the parents. Because we need to stop this anti. And we'll look at what we can do as a deterrent, Rob. Then we need to discuss what else we can help. Because these young'uns, that's a lot of energy we could harness.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of different ideas, and I'm sure at the end we're going to hear more about your concrete solutions, okay? Because politicians are famous for talking about problems and never delivering a solution, okay? But I know you guys are different because you're residents.
Yeah, but it's trying to understand their mentality and why.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, I don't know, let's talk about that a little bit more.
But I see it, to be honest, I see it with my grandson who's coming up 15. He's got an attitude problem. Didn't used to. I'm sure he'll outgrow it. But I think it is the people he mixed with. And you've seen it there,
Well, I think it sounds like you had a life problem.
Well, obviously you've been speaking to Dex.
How did you sort it? I know how you got sorted out, but just tell everybody how you sorted it out.
I knew this was going to come up. Well, at the grand old age of 16, I decided to join the army.
I think you're slightly wrong now. I think somebody nudged you.
Well, I think my mum pushed me in the right direction.
Push you towards the recruitment office.
Well, yeah, that was it. I didn't actually speak the whole recruitment office side of things.
Spoke for
All
you.
I remember is getting on the train and not coming back for 6 months. But no, for me, going back to that period, I joined the army. It's something I wanted to do, but it was one hell of a culture shock when I got there because I thought I was the bee's knees at the time, and I had all these people shouting in my face, and I just didn't know what was going on, and it whipped me in the right direction.
That reminds me of when I went into the military, Dexter. It was when I was 17, a year after you. But I reported for duty. I was just like long hair, and got in line with literally 1,000 other people my age, and they brought us on a trot, so this big, huge place, and all of a sudden they had this fake machine guns going off and noise, and these upperclassmen came out, and they made my life hell for the next year. I had no idea what I was getting into. Was that the same as yours?
A little bit different. I had Scottish instructors, so they, being that majority of them don't like the English, I had a bit of a hard time straight away.
Going back to the gangs, yeah. So I just got to get my head around this. So you had a group of people. Let's go away from the gangs. Group of people, and then you have individual people.
Well, from what?
So what I'm trying to do is how do we get a solution here? So I've got ideas, all right, and we let's just cover youth clubs. So if you know Tin Lane, there used to be a loft club.
The Loft Club.
Closed down.
What was that, Tony? What's the Loft
The Loft Club. It was a very small place, but people used to be able to go there as a youth club.
And what would you do there?
Probably do graffiti. I never went there.
No.
I went to a different club.
Well, you were a scout when you were coming.
Ping pong table.
Well,
or
there wasn't
something.
much room in it, I've got to admit.
What did they have there? Why did people go there?
It's a
ping-pong
meeting
table?
place, isn't it? I mean, it was cool to go there, I suppose. It was down a back alley.
Yeah. So and we're going to keep mentioning this. The old council house and firehouse in Carrick
Street.
Street. Sorry, there's a lot. But I also know there is youth places. So the question is, what we can do, right? That's the question.
But
we
I think
we can sit here and discuss this all night.
yeah, I
Right?
think
But the answer is, how can we harness these young'uns?
I think you have to get with the times, really. I think a lot of these places that are opening up got a ping pong table, a TV and stuff like that. Kids not interested in that anymore.
Yeah.
They want to do things like coding. They want to do things like YouTube. So want to have something to help these kids, do a YouTube channel, show them how to start it and stuff like that. Get with the times. It's easy to stick a pool table in a room and just say play pool every week on a Friday. But why not harness the things that kids are now
or into their
really
phones,
energetic? It's like e-games. They're
Instagram
massive
and
now.
TikTok.
Yeah, e-games. What's e-games?
E-games is basically where they're competing online on PlayStation.
Right.
There's jackpots of £1 million in some of the games and stuff that they can play. If they're in there and they're learning and they work as a team and stuff like that, and you get in a league, for instance.
That's a good idea.
There's loads of stuff. It's just moving with the times and not just sticking them in a dark room.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is first of all, we need to study to see what is around.
Yeah.
Because I do know that there is people running good, organised. You've got your football teams, you've got your cricket teams.
I mean, you only got to look at Barton Fields, haven't you? On a Saturday and a Sunday, there's so much activity going on there.
Yeah, but that might, like you said, there's a certain coach who don't want to do that.
No, yeah, I think I like my nephew, for instance. He's really good at sort of technical stuff. He's not really interested in sports, and he's just become a teenager, and he's more interested in computers and stuff like that and technical side of thing. And you can't push them into sports, No,
No,
you don't want to do.
agree.
If you don't want to do sports, you don't want to do sports. But there's other avenues as a teenager that they can do stuff that they can find they enjoy. Because a lot of these kids, and I would say a lot of things. Like for me, it is quite weird. I ended up doing sailing, right, just on a whim when this is during my little rebellious stage.
What, a sailing boat?
In a sailing boat, one man sailing boat.
That's
I
what
did
I
it down
had
my
as well.
local park at a lake. I did this sailing, and I did it. I think because my mum asked me to, because I was a nuisance. Yeah, I know. Thanks, mum. And I did the sailing, and do you know what? I really enjoyed it. And then I went back, and I got my first ticket and stuff. And I never thought someone like me, too cool for school, would enjoy sailing. But you have to try things to realise, hang on a minute, I actually really, really like this.
When I was a boy, I had a sailboat, and I would go out there all the time, same as you.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
No, that's a great idea. So, like I said, we need to study what is around, come up with some options. But we were discussing about trying to break the circle or the cycle, because there's some people we can't help, all right? But looking at New York, for example, broken window, I think it's called. And that was stamping down on the small, antisocial and crime, right? Because once somebody gets quite brave and they get away with it, and then that gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
All right. So,
but before we get into that, can we talk about what's the impact on the community, of all this? Because
it's a big impact. You've got people who don't want to walk the streets.
People who won't leave their houses of an evening.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to walk the streets. I've had people who don't want to leave after dark. It's when there's a group of young people around, people cross the road. Well, when they've got a child in a pram, they cross the road. Somebody could die. Dex. What else can we be doing?
Well, touching back on what you said about the graffiti, for instance, I think one of your first episodes you chatted about top of Alphington Road, where the bridge is. The artists to go up there, and I call them artists because their stuff's amazing.
What about mentorship then?
Yeah, but that's what I'm coming on to. I mean, I think if you was to get these young lads, if I take myself back to the day when I started this, if someone said to me, "I'm going to teach you to do this," I would go, Where do I need to go?
Yeah.
I even graffitied in my bedroom when I was younger, and it was terrible, and I lived with that for about 5 years. But if someone taught me this art, then it becomes art.
Yeah.
So you've got these.
But
lads
does it
at the
have
top.
to be limited to graffiti? Can it be teaching computers or?
It's the same thing with everything. But I mean,
So
it's
back
just
to that, though,
reaching
you
these
do
people
need-
who are doing these.
So
sort
what
of
are you
things.
saying? You could be a great role model for these young'uns.
I don't think I could be a great role model because
Well,
I can't
why not?
graffiti now.
So
They'd be
why
tagging
not?
Doom,
Because
wouldn't they?
you've just said about your life in London, and
I
and
would.
everything starts from London in my eyes.
Yeah.
You get this culture, you get the gangs, you get we've got the knives. I mean that could even roll down here. Carrying knives is all part of this. Okay, so we could say the Dex program. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be happy to.
No, what I'm
Probably
trying to
that
say, if
path
we
is-
can link some of these artists, we'll call them artists, because
Yeah,
they
I
are
get that.
artists,
Yeah.
right? Which could then teach the taggers, if you want to call them that. I'm making these names up.
But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to pull these people away. You will get some of them. You're never going to get
No,
all
but
of
we
them.
can break. If we could break the cycle, we can't
Yeah.
help the top boys because they're the top boys,
Yeah.
and they don't want to be helped.
Yeah, exactly. I
But
mean,
if we can cut that cycle,
going back to all the stuff we've been talking about, there must be programs running, but we don't know about. Like, as in, if it's the case that these are paid programs in Exeter, someone does, let's say coding.
I know Exeter City has helped because they've give designated areas. I think by the bridge there underneath, where the railway, the tyre place there, that's designated areas.
Yeah.
But you're referring to, when you say programs, you weren't just restricting yourself to graffiti, I think.
No, I know. I mean,
all sorts of different programs.
But the thing, I think with everything is, unless you go looking for something, these young'uns go looking for something, they're not gonna find it. It needs to be advertised.
Yeah.
It needs to be on Facebook. They're on Facebook all the
You
time.
know, Neil, there are a lot of groups, Tony, in your constituency that we already know about, and we're going to have on the show. I hope we're going to have on the show, right? We just need to get the word out.
We need to harness them. We need to get everybody to have a meeting, because I know that I've been invited, the Alphington village, a lady called Juliet's invited me for a question and answer. I am learning. I spoke to another gentleman yesterday, Norman. He said there's different groups around churches. Yeah, I'm not, we're looking at football clubs. We've got money to spend. All right, it's not a lot of money. All right, we'll come back to that in a minute.
And a lot of these groups don't need money. They're just volunteer groups anyway.
Yeah, but you need things to get up. You know what I mean? I'm still interested in why you changed, Dexter, from going from there to joining the army. We won't talk about the army, but we need to think of some ideas. And, we want questions coming in from outside. There's get them coming in.
I mean, it always does boil down to the fact that council will always say, we've got no money. And that's what they will quote every time. Whereas you've got to think you're investing in the future.
Yeah, but we don't necessarily need to look to Big Brother for everything, Tony. For example, like the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout that took up a lot of my time.
Oversubscribed.
Yeah, but you talk about that. Dexter said they don't want to do
free.
that. People don't want to do that.
Yeah. I know, but what we're talking about is, there's a variety of different, say, volunteer, if you want to call it that, events that are put on by volunteers, and sort of like, I'll give you an example, okay? My second son, okay? He had some great friends, but then when we moved over here a long time ago, he got in with the wrong crowd. So had he gotten into one of the programs like, sailing or something like that, then he would have mixed in with some better crowds. They're magnets. We want to draw people in. Don't you think?
I mean, going back to you saying about money, not everything has to cost money. Barton Fields, for instance, has got a little scout shed there that's got the goalposts in. Someone can organise a father and son football match on a day that the league's not on.
Yeah, but that's all right. But we can talk about that. We need to find out we need people to give up their time, right?
I'm pretty sure there is people out there.
Well, sometimes I get disappointed because we ask people to bring questions in. We get a few questions. Just get the questions into us. We'll find the answers out. This gentleman today I met, about the poo bins. I know exactly what the answer about all the poo bins missing, 200, 400. That's antisocial behaviour, because opposite RGB, where there's a little track, in a protest, they leave their poo bags there because the poo bin is missing. That's So it's not just young'uns, all right? So we discussed this. So talking to somebody, and he just said, I leave my bag by the gate because they removed the bin. Well, you can be done for littering. So that's somebody who's 60-something years old. So that's antisocial behaviour. All right, starting from there. All right, I think one of the football posts was ripped out today, so they had to get somebody from the other side of Exeter to repair it in Barton Fields.
Down at the end of the road there.
Yeah, antisocial behaviour. And it's not just, we always pick on the young'uns. All right, it's not just young'uns. So let's just broaden it. The tagging. We talk about tagging. Let's talk about antisocial behaviour. All right, loud music. Yeah, people in your face. People
throwing litter out the window of your car as you're driving down the street.
Yeah, so or dustbins left out. People got to walk around or Dunsford Hill, for example.
What's going on there?
Well, I've been up there today. unbelievable. There's a ambulance which has been converted into some home or something. It's been painted green, right? Its windows smashed in, all the wires are wrapped or pulled out. Okay? Problem. Can you give me the problem?
No
Why
one
it
wants to
can't
take
be removed.
responsibility
Dexter?
for it.
Why it can't be removed?
Yeah.
You know the answer.
People haven't got time to do it. It costs money. It costs money to get rid of it.
I mean, they could turn around and say, we don't know who the legal owner is. It's not our responsibility.
Is it abandoned, do you think? What?
Okay, so
What's the
the answer is, I rung up, okay? I rung up and I rung the police first. I went onto an answer machine. They said anything to do with vehicles, you ring Devon County Council. So I did it. I didn't mention I'm a councillor. So I rung up Devon County Council. Lovely lady on the phone. She says, nothing to do with us. It's Exeter City Council. Now, this vehicle's been abandoned. It's all ripped out. I've got photographs of it. It's even parked on the curb, which is also breaking the law. I rung up a gentleman in Exeter City Council. Same again, lovely to me. He said, no, you have to ring up Devon County Council. So I've been bounced around, took me an hour, and he said, is it tax? I said, yes. Is it MOT? Yes. We can't touch it. But I know it is really annoying people up there, and that's my mission.
It's also obscuring the vision for anyone pulling out of the road.
Yeah.
You can see it's abandoned.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, can
That's
I add-
anti-sir.
I think
So 1.1 million spent on, waste. You know.
I mean, can I say something? You guys being counselors, because you've been here in the local area for all your life, okay, we want you to take a look at what we're spending. £1 million on the key.
Yeah, £1 million, 1.1 actually to be exact.
we could have a lot of after school activities and suck people into that, couldn't we? Really?
Well, if you think about it, 1.1, which the key is really lovely. It is a nice place.
And thanks, Stefan, for that comment. I think I know who you are, Stefan. By the way, thanks very much.
So 1.1 spent on the key, but everybody doesn't care about the surrounding areas. Let's look at everything. We need to get because this is our next generation. But remember, I'm not just talking about, we always, this show really is, all you've talked about really is young'uns and your problem when you got brought up. I'm looking at different individuals now.
Well,
shoplifting.
Oh,
for example.
well,
Is that antisocial behaviour, Dex, Tone?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a burden on the shops and a burden on the people and the consumers because of what it goes on. And these people know they'll never be done. And even if they are caught,
but then you could say it's because the money's tight, so they've got to feed families. Where do you draw the line?
Then we should all shoplift. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so when we get a little bit close to the end, I want to hear, on behalf of the audience, what your solutions are. We've talked about, I think, one aspect, of course, is better policing and a relationship with the police, right? So, but let's touch on what are other cities in the world doing. For example, in New York, when I was young, New York City was rife with crime, and it wasn't major crime necessarily; it was petty crime. And then Giuliani came in and he cleaned up the mess. And the way he did that was he stopped, every single any petty crime, you'd get, a fine and sometimes even in prison for a week, and that stopped a lot of crime. What are cities doing, guys, around the world?
Okay, so I mentioned New York. Yeah, I mentioned New York. I've had a question here asked by somebody saying, what have we done?
Anthony. Thank you,
Good
Anthony.
question, Anthony. What have you done positive since you've been elected? Tony?
I've been trying to sort out the wall at Prospect Place, which is falling down, and it is hitting a brick wall, bouncing from one to the other. Seeing highways, about the potholes and the raised pavements.
I think we're meeting the highways next week.
And we are meeting them next week, yeah.
And
individually, because he wants to do it separately. Campton Road, a lot of people are complaining about the roadworks, but unfortunately I do try and tell them it's essential roadworks. I did get hold of utilities because I got an email to say they couldn't see anyone there. Although they did all suddenly appear the next day. It is trying to explain that it is essential roadworks. These people do not live in the area, these workmen. They will have been put up by the utilities firm. And obviously, logistically, all the equipment's got to come down and they will just be moved to the next site, which unfortunately is Cowley Bridge Road.
But don't you think, Tony, that a lot of us see roadworks and there's nobody working there, and if it's on a major thoroughfare, they should
It
be
is
working.
frustrating.
They should be working 24/7. You know.
Yeah,
It
it
shouldn't
is
just
frustrating, but
Monday
I
through
can
Friday, then the
explain
whole
why
weekend
they
is-
weren't working 24/7. So,
Yeah.
for instance, the Cowley Bridge, which is a 4-day closure, maybe they can lop a day off it just by working 24/7. But
Yeah.
maybe they're doing it so that they're only working one crew.
Okay.
Going back to Dex,
We have another
I
one
don't want
here.
you sat quiet there. Okay, I'm still thinking, would you be interested in organising some form of competition? You know, putting it on because you know,
What sort of competition?
about who can be the best artists with.
I think going back to before we were saying about that, we need to get in touch with these people. We're the gurus. See what they can do. I mean, I'm happy to support. I won't be teaching anyone anything.
So if
But I'm
I
happy
put an
to
open invitation out and spread the word to
Yeah.
whoever is out there, young or old, because it's not just young'uns. I know somebody who's quite old likes his graffiti. He's not very good at it, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, I think we have to be careful about that.
Yeah, but
'cause
what we
we
could
don't want to
say-
have
what we
an
could say
open
is-
invitation to welcome people and think it's
No,
trendy
I
and all
welcome
that,
on to
right?
show
No.
because I want to see
Yeah.
what their mentality
Oh, let's
is.
bring them on the show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Dex,
mean,
you
yeah,
would
yeah,
be,
that-
you
that-
interview him.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic to have
Yeah.
a chat with them. And you know, I've seen these guys. Some of them are, I presume they're in their 30s. You
Yeah.
know, so they've experienced life and
Yeah.
they've probably got something to hand down and
Yeah.
give to someone, some sort of advice. And then, like you're saying, if we want to do this, I don't mind being there, helping them out and orchestrating it.
Yeah.
It would just be the case of finding the areas that
Yeah.
safe for everyone to do it,
Yeah.
and getting everyone in the right place. And
Mm.
again, it's going to cost a bit of money, but not a massive amount.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought.
So Neil, Tony just mentioned a couple things that he's done. Now, you told me a story about something really lovely that you did. Can you share that in confidence without going into
Yeah,
too much detail
very.
about
I'll try and
the
make it
people
quick.
involved?
It did involve, I would say, team effort. So I was approached by one of my constituency who had a problem. Right, this is about overbuilding, overdeveloping in Alphington. So a young lady approached me with quite shocking news. The child has not been into school for 9 weeks. All right, without going into personal stuff, she suffered from epilepsy, and her first choice was Alphington School. She couldn't go into Alphington School. I'll do it very quick. So she got placed into St. Thomas School. Well, she couldn't do that because it worked out, if she had to walk, which she has problems with, it would have been 30. I'm not going to go into how I worked it out. It would have been 38 miles a week to walk the child to school, right? Which even I, as quite a fit man, would have struggled. But the end result, she rung me up yesterday. I met some very interesting people in the council. I do a lot of my work face to face. So, and with the constituency, ring me up. I will come and see you. It's all right emailing. But end result, between Paul, the transport, Fiona, and another lady, they all worked it out. And the phone rang yesterday afternoon and said he has been given a place. Right.
Oh, that's super.
Yeah, it's good, but I have to warn everybody. It doesn't mean Alphington is open for business, because all this building, all this, the infrastructure is coming, but it's not there. So you
Yeah.
call that antisocial, really, because people are going to get upset.
Well, what you've done there, that'll keep a young kid off the street. How old was this youngster?
At 9.
Yeah.
9.
See, I mean,
And she sent me a lovely text thanking me yesterday.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Right.
I mean, do you think that some of these issues just need somebody like you to join the dots, you and Tony, to bring these people together, these
I
different
think if we
agencies
can make
together?
that bridge, and I'm going to invite Dexter to help do this in the future, if we can do a bridge with Devon County Council, because they're doing the rules, all right, but people want it done. They can't afford to wait months and months. That child can't be out of school for 9 weeks. That's not fair on that child. Okay, now we're looking at a zebra crossing up around where the lady lives, because 2 children got knocked over the other day. All right, not seriously hurt, but irrespective, somebody could die. All right, so I'm looking at zebra crossings. That's all antisocial, I think, because people get upset. Tony, what have you got?
In what way?
Right, so you were talking about, before we come on, about looking at the building in Carrot Street.
Oh yeah, the building in Carrot Street. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're just weighing up our options, because obviously it turns out it's owned by Exeter City Council, and they just want to offload it. And I think from what I gather, any money they get will go towards another section of their services. But also they own the library, obviously, in Church Road, and they want to offload that. But our attitude is it's the hub of a community. You can use it. Once it's sold, it's sold.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just trying to look into our options there. But it is, at the moment, because we're relatively new, we are hitting brick walls. So we've got to get around those brick walls and show we were voted for a reason.
Yeah.
So if it means causing trouble, ringing up, pestering them, or as I did today, send a very horrible email back to Exeter City Council because they don't want to do a wall because they say it's not theirs. They'd rather spend money looking for who owns the wall. So I did send an email back saying, build the wall back up and then spend your money finding out who owns it and send them the bill for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is coming against a brick wall, and I do expect a nasty email back, but I can send as many nasty emails as they
Well,
can.
also there's telephone people can use.
Yeah, but what else
Well,
are
we
you
will
looking
start.
at?
I've actually been in the Civic Centre as well because I got fed up with emailing and got telephone numbers for all the
That's a
various
great way to do
departments.
it. Yeah.
So I want to skip the emailing. I want to ring up the
Excellent
departments and say,
idea.
look, I'm
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah.
Let's sort these
You
problems
want to have
out.
a relationship with them.
There is
Yeah.
another problem which is ongoing in St
What's
Thomas for the finance, which is the unfinished buildings in Merivale and Newman Road. So you've got a lot of people, local people, who are really struggling to find somewhere to live. And Exeter City for the last, we'll say 10, 12 years,
Yeah.
however long it is, they own, I'm assuming they own all the building land there,
Mm.
and they are doing nothing about it.
Mm.
And yet there are people desperately needing homes. They're wasting money on other things,
Ah.
other projects. If they
Yeah.
did sell the firehouse, use the money. Don't ring fence
Douglas
it.
has just asked a question from the audience.
Go on.
He's wondering if you would be perfect
Right.
for the Highways Committee.
Yeah, if I'm
Well-
correct, we all
We will
have
find
to
out.
be on the highway committee anyway. For
Yeah,
your
it all
designated
comes.
area.
We're designated that full stop.
Yeah. But going back to it, Tony has rung up, and we're meeting the gentleman. You're meeting him one
I'm
day.
meeting him first, hopefully on a Monday or a Tuesday. So that's the next thing. I've spoken to one of your local councillors, Adrian Fulham, who has passed on some of your concerns on some of the potholes. Now, the thing is, because I thought they were responsible for the wall, that was a thing. I'm also going to get him to look at the pavement that's been raised that somebody actually said about at the top of Red Hills. But I need more. You know, you have my email address as a councillor. Tell me where those potholes are. I've got a couple of days then to make a note of him. I don't want to take him to just 2 spots, 3 spots. I was talking to another councillor who said he's got 30 spots. I'd like to match him. I want this guy to see just how bad
Yeah.
these roads and pavements are.
How about putting it on a map, walking around and putting them on a map?
Well,
Or
it's a
is
big
that,
area. I mean, I did walk up Red Hills yesterday and then walk through the nice green valleys,
Yeah.
checking out a possible fly tipping
how are
thing
you,
that was also brought
How
up.
are you, categorizing them or inventorying them so that they have a list to go through? Do you have a list?
Well, at the moment, I've only got 3 now because I've lost one on the wall. So the list wouldn't be very big, which is why I do want to show him
Yeah.
and highlight any points. He wants to put me in his van, which sounds dodgy in itself, but
What about
drive around, and then he will deal with Neil separate. He doesn't. He wants to. He's the person who's in charge
Yeah.
for this side of the river, the St Thomas, Exwick, Cowick, and Alphington side.
So you're meeting him first.
I'm going to meet him
second.
first. I've sent another email to him to arrange a time and a date. I'm waiting for that back. Like I said, at the moment, 3 locations for raised potholes, potholes, raised pavement, and I think somewhere else as well. So I do need more. Oh, and somebody was suggesting I think it was a speed camera on top of just past the roadworks, those lovely roadworks at Oakhampton Road.
Tony, you sound like you've been doing this for weeks and months and years.
I'm
but how
just
long
seeing
have you...
how many people I can annoy.
I have a question for you. How long have you been a councillor?
I've only been a councillor 2 weeks. It is
I don't even think 2 weeks, is it?
nearly 2
Right?
weeks,
I
but
mean,
it is.
Look at all the things you've been doing.
I've just been rectified. It's 1 week.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's.
Well,
what
I mean,
Preston's saying.
already, I think one of the great things, again, is you guys are local residents and
Yeah.
been
It's
around
finding
the area
our
for a long
way,
time.
networking, and finding the right people to talk to.
Well, it's
Yes.
very interesting because Dexter's very quiet here. We've got him on for a reason.
Well, he's
I'm not a
troublemaker.
councillor.
We're trying to make, would you consider be a councillor? Local councillor? And if not, would you first? And the second question, if you don't, why not? Because I've heard your father was a councillor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Well, for one, I'm going to be doing outreach programs now, so I'm going to have no time to be a councillor. Start. No, I mean, yeah, maybe in the future. I mean, my life's busy enough as it is, but
because you have a child, so
yeah,
reason I'm doing this is for people like you,
yeah.
grandchildren and all that. Some people say, "Why are you wasting your time?" I'm looking at you
Well,
as the next generation.
somebody's got to do it, else it'll never change.
I might just go straight for Prime Minister, to be honest.
Yeah, but your looks, you might get it.
I'm not messing about.
Before you come in, I actually called him Pretty Boy, and that's his nickname.
I thought it was Doom, but
Do we call you Doom or
That's
Pretty
why I
Boy?
can't tell you like
Okay,
anything.
let's talk about what you're going to actually do now. We've touched on a lot of different things. Can we kind of reach a
Do you want
summary?
me first?
Well, yeah.
Well, I was going to go in. The next phase.
Focusing on the graffiti and the
the next phase.
Social behaviour.
Okay, sounds
The next
great.
phase is going into the community centre, which one of them being Exwick, at Kennedy Way, and speaking to them. What we found out is, which is quite interesting, and we don't make any promises, we get given a set amount of money to invest in our areas.
Mhm.
We have to obviously invest it in well-being of
Can
people.
I just interject? When you say invest, let's just say it's spending our tax money, okay? Instead of
Well,
investing.
you say
I
that,
know,
we
that's-
say
you've
invest.
already become a
But
politician.
you,
It's-
all right, yeah, but
you
you
know,
say that. So we've been
Yeah.
given $8,000, $4,000 for Alfreton, $4,000 for Carrick,
Well, it's the same again. So
and divided
Yeah.
up.
because
Just
we
be careful
crisscross,
about-
so it's $8,000.
Right, so it's
it's
not an
8,000
investment
each.
because
Yeah,
it's technically
spending our tax
it's
money.
their money, i.e., your money. The
But it
your
is-
money
It's sort of
to be
investment
spent on
because we're
projects.
expecting a return
so
from that.
going back to your
guess, right?
outreach, and this is an idea. Could you do something? I can't give you the full money, so
No.
I've put the feelers out, guys. We've got the money. We have to spend this money wisely on the community. So I'm looking at you. If somebody could give you,
As long as the suggestions pass by the scrutiny
it's got to be
committee.
passed by.
So we can't say
could you
yes, that's
come
brilliant.
up with any ideas.
It has to go through a scrutiny committee.
I think personally, going back to what we said, we need to. I've got a 2-year-old. I'm 35 now. I need someone in between to tell me what's cool. What do people want to do? And then from there we make something. The consensus is there, and if everyone says one thing, then let's make something for that. Let's go out there, spend that money on something that everyone does like doing. Because remember,
Yeah.
you don't want to be pushing everyone into doing stuff. Because the more you push kids, the more you push teenagers,
Yeah.
the less likely they are.
I like what you said about not everybody wants to play football.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit old fashioned. So first of all, I think we should have a deterrent. Right. And the deterrent is more police patrols
Well, exactly.
walking. And
Okay.
and they all say, well, we don't have time. Well, why don't you have time? Why haven't you got enough police?
So the
you know-
first thing is, I think you talked about before the show, is you said you're going to get a meeting with the local PCSOs, right? And
A lot of it does. A lot of this
so
does.
if
involve
anybody's
meetings.
watching from the police, and we're going to actually write to the police and go and see them. So remember, we're face
get a
people.
relationship.
Yeah, we need to build a relationship. I built a relationship with quite a few people only in a week. Haven't we? We both have.
Mm.
You're going to
Um,
get the contact details. You're going
It's
to know
important
who
to
they
get
are.
the contact so you can go
Right.
there straight out. Straight to the
Exactly.
people you want to see.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, like I say, it does take a little bit of
You know,
time.
So if you've seen a police car driving around, would you be deterred, or would you?
No, it probably will be after this. After the things I've been saying, we'll be outside. You won't
No,
be
but
able to
would
see
you
them.
be
Dexter.
deterred, or if you got pulled over and the old days when you used to ride your bikes on the pavement? I think,
Oh yeah.
Policemen would pull me over and say, "Where's your lights?" or "Get off, get on the pavement, get off into the road."
Well, I mean, I probably got told off.
Okay,
a
can I
little
just
bit
bring
worse
you
than
back?
that.
Let's just. I want some takeaways. The audience wants takeaways. So
Right.
you're going to meet with the police.
My
You're going to
first
get
one
the
is
contact
police
details.
visibility.
Yeah.
And the PSAOs.
Mm.
More walking, more talking to young'uns, talking to anybody.
Okay. I also thought I heard you say you're going to try to get to know their schedule. How often are they there? So, there's an expectation. If they're off sick, then we know about it right away, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we hear about all these new community policemen, but I've not seen one in my area
Yeah.
for quite a while. In
Mm.
fact, I can't remember the last
No,
time.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen them.
Whereas
I used to walk in.
The deterrence being you do these patrols, you do these random sort of patrols and random stops, disrupt it all,
Yeah.
so that people
Yeah,
don't know.
But
it's
what
gonna
about
happen.
getting them on the show, Neil?
Yeah, but what about going down to McDonald's,
Mm.
have engagement with people, whatever age, chat to them, invite them on here, or just go down and say why, and what can we do to help you enjoy your life? I mean,
Well, I think majority will probably call you a few names first.
I think
Yeah.
you'd have a very choicey show here,
Yeah.
and the
I mean,
bleep button would be
mind your
going
own
to-
business.
Yeah, they'll
and you
probably-
wouldn't see their face anyway because they'd have a hood
and they'd
on.
probably start singing or something. In there, to
Okay,
be
so
honest.
if we had youth engagement centres, community hubs, right, like for Alphington, we say, right, come there, St Thomas Church, come there, we'll have a cup of tea, lemonade,
But I think
we can spend money on small projects.
But I mean, it all starts with something like what you have the beauty of now is social media. It starts like the parents, for instance, could be like, my 2 young kids, they don't like sports, but they like blah blah blah, and it gives us them ideas of what we can do.
Yeah, so if we had small projects,
Yeah.
because we could spend on 2 projects and waste all that money.
Douglas,
Okay.
can I just add to everybody that Douglas has
the question,
made that suggestion, which I think is very, very wise. Don't blow it on £1 million projects down at the Quay, to
Yeah.
Oh, that's my idea gone.
Douglas said spend the
That's
money.
my
on
idea gone now.
Yeah, Douglas says spend the money on small projects.
Yeah.
Don't blow it onto 1 or 2, and I totally agree with
that
you.
way you
But
sort of like-
Douglas, we need ideas because we're only 2 people. Small ideas. Let's get engagement with the young uns.
Always
Community
remember,
centres.
whatever projects they are, they have to go through the Devon County Scrutiny Committee. We could not say by looking at someone, yes. We have to put it to them,
Yeah,
and if they
good
say
point.
yes, then we can say yes. So,
Yeah, but we
But if the
all
idea's
got
good-
common sense. We know what's good. We know what's
Yeah.
bad. We know what's going to go. And if somebody's got a good idea, Tony and I will back them ideas. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at getting things through.
So there won't
how-
be any money left.
How are we going to get rid of the graffiti that's there? Okay.
Right, they
So
do
we're going to
have
prevent it from coming
Yeah.
again with the police.
Well, there's
and-
2 options here.
yeah. Go ahead.
2 options, but they do have a graffiti team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
we need
increase
to
that.
influence. Yeah. I need to influence people. So 2 options. All right. One is find out I know there's a graffiti team from
There's
Exeter City Council.
Exeter City Council.
Quick
has
reaction, clean
Yeah.
off all the little lampposts, clean off all the. But also, I'll get out of the the green box, the
that. Open reach.
open
and,
reach. If you give me the paint, I'll go and paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And Dexter, you've volunteered.
Oh, that's good.
All right.
I've got lots of stuff I volunteered for
yeah,
today.
but how long will it take to paint something? Put
Yeah.
your gloves on, paint it. But I'm going to go round with Tony, and I'm going to mark, not tag. I'm going to go round, do what 3 words. If you don't know what that is find out exactly. And I'll take pictures of all the things on the main road going to Exeter, our area.
See, Neil, what the audience may not know, but they will probably get, is that Exeter City Council or any council or anyone cannot just automatically go out and paint anything they want,
No.
because this is property. It's like property of Open Reach,
Yeah.
the St. Thomas railway station.
Wow.
That building that
Yeah, they
used to
could
be a nightclub.
classify me as
A graffiti artist.
That used to be, or that's owned by the railway company.
But you'd think even owned by the railway, they'd want to at least smarten it up.
Well, they don't. You know what? They got a bigger fish to fry. So, in other words, we need to getting these contact details from OpenReach, from the GWR, and different agencies in order to get the permission for us to do it, is going to take a lot of proactive work.
Yeah, okay. So I agree with that. So our thing is to communicate with the police better, communicate and have engagement with the young uns. Okay, we need to do a rapid removal.
Yeah.
All right.
Meet with
we
the
need to
Exeter City
meet with
Council
people who
graffiti
own the
team.
properties and volunteer help. Okay. Now, this is one I did put out once when there was an incident in Alphington with a group of people had their phone taken off and men in a car. I said maybe we should put CCTV up in areas where it's vulnerable. Dexter, I'm on about parks. What's your view on that? And I'll tell you what somebody come back and said.
Well, I totally agree. Why not? Because a stay.
It's
Have- have-
overcoming the logistics, though, isn't it?
Well,
So-
they say logistics, but
Yeah.
they
But
can,
I'm sure there
they
is
can
a
put
way
a
to do
camera
it.
up for cars, which are owned by the government, not the council, but the council get a commission.
Or in London is the most watched city in the whole
Yeah.
Oh,
world.
And the person who come back to me has said, you're watching children in a park. Yeah, well, we're
qualified
looking at a
person is-
CCTV. I mean, I thought that was so ridiculous. We're looking at the safety of them children. And if you want to talk about videoing children, you get videoed every time when you're going in town. So whoever wrote that, come back with an argument. I prefer to see people playing, having good time, and preventing old women being intimidated. Tony?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is. I don't know if it works as well. There is a CCTV in the park where I live nearby, and there is one. I don't know if it works anymore, but like I said, it is there.
So Helen says, thank you for this. She says, when her child went to Red Hills, there was a PSCO visiting and they had a good rapport with the kids in the school. So that is a brilliant, does that still happen? If not, that's a good thing. I will bring it to the police.
It could be our missing woman. You don't know.
We will go to the top of the police and ask to speak to them.
So what I'm hearing is there are 3 takeaways. There's involvement in a relationship with the police. There's the community engagement. And then the last one is cleaning up the mess that we have, relationship with the Exeter City Council graffiti team, and then
turning them
into
rapid response
and community repainting.
Community cleanup.
Can I just add another one? It's literally just come to me. I walk my dog in Barton Fields, and I find a lot of the time, I go to quite early in the morning, there's a lot of smashed bottles on the floor, which obviously I have to then get the dog back, pull him around. There's loads of like drug paraphernalia, space cakes, sort of things like that on the side left. And there is a man that goes around and cleans all this up. I was speaking to Neil recently about him, and he shouldn't have to pick all this stuff up.
He actually, my wife and I nominated him for the Pride of Devon Award, and this was a few years ago. And I spoke to him the other day, and what an incredible man, and he won the award. And he's still doing it there. I think his wife left him over it, but don't quote me. Don't quote me.
Yeah. So what's the solution there then, do you think?
I mean, what happens after dark? I mean, what do you do? I mean, like Neil said, if there's cameras in that park in the daytime, they can be on in the evening.
Police patrols.
Well, you have night cameras, but it all comes back. They say they don't have the money, but they do.
They've got the
this
money
technology
for other
nowadays. They got all visiting up the town.
Yeah,
and they can stop people from going in shops if they're known thieves.
Offenders.
Or they can do that. All right. So we're looking at CCTV. Yeah. That's another option.
In the local community.
So let's go back to it. Let's go back. Right. We've summed it up. We have a problem in Alphington, and another guy, Norman, again last night said there's a crime, Alphington crime. On WhatsApp or so. I'm going to investigate that. It tells you how much crime is being reported.
Oh, yeah, I've looked at the one in St Thomas.
Yeah. Right, statistically, how much is being reported, and the question is how much is being sorted out.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple minutes left. I guess what we're saying also is to have, have the residents contact you, right? And what, are you going to have surgeries? I know you've only been a councillor for a week or two, but how are you going to reach out to how do people engage with you?
My lady in the back, which you can't see, Jess, thank you. She's already looking at booking places with joint and all that. So that's good.
So we're in the St Thomas one because we sort of crisscross the same wall. We were talking a joint one. Mine will be independent along with Neil's in the Exwick area. Don't forget, you do have your local councillors as well, who will deal with local issues and some of the stuff with the Exeter City Council. So I'm hoping that they'll take a bit of the flack. And then they've already said, some of them, that if they've got bigger problems, they'll come to me for the Devon County Council ones.
And will you be putting that on your Facebook page? Is that one way people can say,
there'll be more
having
on my
surgery?
Facebook page in
other words, when you're having a surgery,
put it on. Yeah, it won't be a secret surgery.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, we'll put that numbers out.
I won't be eating all the biscuits.
We'll get that numbers out. So, Rob,
okay. So what are we going to have on next, Neil?
Well, I'm going to invite.
This has been an interesting
We've
topic.
got some interesting people. Some people say they're going to turn up, and some people say, and then they let us down the last minute.
Yes.
All right. So this will get better as people understand what we're trying to achieve. It's not about politics. It's about speaking to everybody in the community.
Yeah. And what's do we have a topic for next week? Because I want to.
I don't know.
Want to.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, but that will come out.
It's a secret.
I've got a 3-month program. All right, it might switch around because some people let me down, but that will come out in due course.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we hope this has been interesting for everybody. I'm going to turn the tables around a little bit, even though I've worked with you guys in your campaign. I'm going to hold you to account on behalf of the audience. I've got a lot of notes I've written down, a lot of things that you've promised.
We didn't promise, but I like being held to
we
it.
like.
Okay,
We
good.
will hopefully achieve.
And I will be visiting back with you guys in future episodes to hold you account and get your interesting stories on what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and also I hold my hand out to Dexter. Thank you for coming on. We also need people to be like him, come on the show, and also give us your time and help us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.